You might remember it like it was yesterday. A bright stage, flashing lights, a roaring crowd, and that voice calling out, "Come on down! You're the next contestant on The Price is Right." Before you even saw his face, you felt the warmth in his tone. By the time he flashed that signature smile, you knew. You were in the hands of someone who loved what he did and loved the people watching even more. The applause wasn't just for the show. It was for the man who made mornings feel brighter. For over 5 decades, Bob Barker wasn't just a game show host. He was America's host. But his story didn't begin on television. It began thousands of miles away from Hollywood, in a small town, on a cold December morning, where a boy with a quiet confidence would one day command the attention of millions. And along the way, he'd face moments of chance, heartbreak, and purpose that would shape not just a career, but a legacy. Chapter 1. From the Prairie to the Airwaves. Robert William Barker was born on December 12, 1923, in Darrington, Washington, a logging town nestled among mist-covered evergreens, where winters painted the mountains white and life was as rugged as the land itself. The scent of pine filled the air, and the rumble of logging trucks was a familiar soundtrack. But his real formative years were spent far from the Pacific Northwest, on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in Mission, South Dakota. Life there wasn't easy. The wind whipped through the plains with a sharpness you never forgot, and the nights stretched long and cold. Winter meant ice on the windows and mornings where you could see your breath even indoors. The community was close-knit, bound together by necessity. Bob's mother, Matilda, was its steady center. She was a school teacher, and later the superintendent, with a fierce belief in education and discipline. Bob's father, Byron, was a foreman on electrical high lines, a dangerous job that demanded grit and fearlessness. When Byron died in an accident, Matilda was left to raise Bob and his half-brother alone, a challenge she faced with unshakable resolve. Bob was part Sioux, enrolled as a member of the Sioux tribe, and the reservation shaped his early sense of respect for elders, for animals, for the land. He played basketball on outdoor courts, where the ball echoed across the prairie, fished in creeks that shimmered under the summer sun, and learned that hard work wasn't optional, it was survival. In high school, Bob wasn't the loudest kid in the room, but he had a presence. Teachers noticed it. Friends noticed it. Even then, he could tell a story in a way that made you stop what you were doing just to hear the end. Sometimes classmates would linger after the bell just to hear him finish. When he earned a scholarship to Drury College in Springfield, Missouri, it was his ticket off the reservation and into a wider world, though World War II had other plans. Chapter 2. Finding His Voice. In 1943, before finishing his degree, Bob joined the U.S. Navy Reserve, training as a fighter pilot. He learned to handle a plane the way he would one day handle a live broadcast. Steady hands, quick thinking, and absolute focus. The roar of the engine, the precision of the controls. It was all about calm under pressure. The war ended before he saw combat, but the discipline stayed with him for life. Later, he would say that live TV felt a little like being in the cockpit. No second takes, no room for panic. Back in civilian life, Bob returned to Drury College to finish his degree in economics. But it wasn't business that drew him in, it was the microphone. He began working at KTTS Radio in Springfield, Missouri, writing news bulletins, sports reports, and community updates. He had a voice that was calm yet confident, the kind of voice people trusted without thinking about why. Listeners said it was like having a good friend read the news to you. Soon, he wasn't just reading the news. He was hosting his own radio show, The Bob Barker Show. It was a mix of music, interviews, and good-natured chatter. Local listeners tuned in not just for the content, but for him. He had the rare ability to make each person feel like he was talking directly to them, a skill that would define his entire career. That voice caught the attention of television producer Ralph Edwards, who was driving through Los Angeles in 1956 when he happened to hear Bob on the radio. Edwards didn't just hear a host, he heard the host. Within weeks, Bob was in front of a national TV audience as the new master of ceremonies for truth or consequences. It was the break that would change everything, and the best was yet to come. Chapter 3. Come on down! And national stardom. The year was 1972. Television was still a place where networks experimented, and CBS was about to relaunch a game show from the 1950s with a fresh twist. The producers needed a host who could do more than read rules and hand out prizes. They needed someone who could make people feel at home the moment they walked on stage. Bob Barker was that man. When The Price is Right debuted with Bob at the helm, something clicked instantly. His calm confidence was the perfect balance to the sheer chaos of the game. Contestants would leap from their seats, sprint down the aisle, and arrive breathless, and Bob would greet them with a reassuring handshake, a wink, or a gentle joke to settle their nerves. And then there was that voice. "Come on down! You're the next contestant on The Price is Right!" Those 5 words became more than a call to play. They became an American ritual. For decades, families planned sick days, snow days, and lazy summer mornings around that moment. Bob's hosting style was deceptively simple. He never overshadowed the game or the contestants. Instead, he amplified their excitement. When someone won a car, he cheered right alongside them. When someone missed a bid by a heartbreaking dollar, he had a way of softening the disappointment without making them feel foolish. Behind the scenes, he was just as genuine. Crew members often said that if you ran into Bob in the hallway, he would stop, ask about your family, and actually listen to the answer. On set, he insisted that everyone, from the camera operators to the prize models, be treated with the same respect as the contestants. By the late 70s, The Price is Right wasn't just popular, it was part of American culture. It became the longest-running game show in TV history, and Bob Barker was the steady heartbeat that kept it going for an unprecedented 35 years. And through it all, he never forgot to end each episode with the same gentle reminder. Help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered. That wasn't just a line. It was the beginning of his life's second mission. Chapter 4. Beyond the Stage. A Voice for the Voiceless. Off camera, Bob Barker's life took a different but equally passionate direction. One that would make him a hero to millions of creatures who couldn't thank him in words. Bob's love for animals dated back to his childhood on the Rosebud Reservation, where he learned to treat every living thing with respect. But as his fame grew, so did his ability to make a difference. He became a vegetarian, stopped wearing leather, and began speaking publicly about animal welfare long before it was mainstream. In 1994, he founded the DJ&T Foundation, named after his late wife, Dorothy Jo, and his mother, Matilda Tilley. The foundation provided millions in funding for low-cost and free spay-neuter clinics across the country. Bob personally funded mobile clinics that could reach rural communities, ensuring that no one was too far away to help their pets. His advocacy extended to the entertainment industry itself. He refused to host events where fur was modeled, famously stepping down from the Miss USA and Miss Universe pageants in protest. He campaigned for the removal of elephants from traveling circuses, donated $5 million to the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, and helped finance the rescue of animals from neglect and abuse. In 2012, PETA named their West Coast headquarters the Bob Barker Building, a permanent tribute to his unwavering commitment. On stage, he gave away cars. Off stage, he gave away hope to people and animals who desperately needed it. Chapter 5. Curtain Call and Final Notes. By the mid-2000s, Bob Barker had taped thousands of episodes of The Price is Right. He had greeted tens of thousands of contestants, given away countless prizes, and, maybe most importantly, shared millions of moments of joy with the American public. But time catches everyone, even the man who seemed ageless behind the microphone. In 2006, during a broadcast, Bob made the announcement fans had dreaded for years. "After 35 years, I've decided to retire." It wasn't an easy decision. Hosting was in his blood. But Bob knew that walking away on his own terms would be the final gift he could give to the show, and to himself. His last episode, on June 15, 2007, was a celebration, not a goodbye. The studio was filled with familiar faces, Former contestants, crew members, celebrity guests, everyone who had been part of the journey. Viewers at home cried and laughed in equal measure as Bob gave his final spin of the big wheel and delivered his last heartfelt reminder about pet care. When the applause faded and the cameras stopped rolling, he didn't vanish completely. Bob made surprise appearances, like a legendary cameo on April Fool's Day 2015, reclaiming the host's mic for one more laugh. He even poked fun at himself in Adam Sandler's Happy Gilmore, showing that he could throw a punch, both literally and comedically. In retirement, Bob lived quietly in Hollywood Hills, surrounded by friends, family, and, of course, animals. He never chased the spotlight, but the spotlight never forgot him. Chapter 6. The Final Farewell. On the morning of August 26, 2023, the world woke to the news that Bob Barker had passed away peacefully at home, just months shy of his 100th birthday. The cause was complications from Alzheimer's disease, with other health issues contributing. Tributes poured in instantly. Drew Carey, his successor on The Price is Right, called it a very sad day for the Price is Right family and animal lovers everywhere. Former contestants shared grainy photos from decades past, remembering the electric feeling of hearing him call their name. Fans who'd never met him still felt the loss, because Bob wasn't just a host, he was part of their lives. News outlets replayed those golden TV moments. The gasps when a contestant guessed the exact price, the laughter when Bob's quick wit stole the scene, and, of course, that final sign-off that had become his personal legacy. Help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered. It was a career defined by joy, a life defined by kindness, and a farewell defined by gratitude. Final chapter. Legacy of a Gentle Giant. When the lights finally dimmed and the cameras stopped rolling, Bob Barker's true legacy shone even brighter. He wasn't just the longest-serving game show host in American history. He was the man who made mornings brighter for millions. For 35 years on The Price is Right, Bob was a constant presence in living rooms across the country. He was there on sick days, summer vacations, and quiet mornings when a family gathered around the TV, coffee in hand, to watch strangers win microwaves, vacations, and new cars. But Bob's impact went far beyond the prizes and applause. He taught an entire nation that kindness never goes out of style. His respect for every contestant, whether they won big or went home empty-handed, wasn't an act for the cameras. It was who he was. Then there was his tireless advocacy for animals. Bob's sign-off line wasn't just a catchy closer, it was a mission statement. Over decades, he poured millions of his own dollars into spay-neuter programs, wildlife conservation, and animal rescue efforts. His influence helped shift public attitudes toward animal welfare, making compassion a conversation in homes that might never have thought about it before. And his reach was multi-generational. Parents who grew up watching Bob introduced him to their children. Even after his retirement, clips of his quick wit, charming smile, and gentle humor continued to rack up views online, proving that his appeal was timeless. Bob Barker's life reminds us that kindness echoes long after the final applause. If his story moved you, share a memory below. Perhaps your first time hearing "Come On Down," or how his message about animals changed your perspective. Pass this tribute along to someone who remembers gathering around the TV for The Price is Right, and let's keep his spirit alive. Help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered. Because true legacies aren't just remembered, they're lived.